In cultural transmission, Protestant missionaries collaborated with Chinese literati to translate massive Western classics covering science, politics, economics, law, and other fields. British missionaries Timothy Richard and John Fryer translated A General History of the West, systematically introducing modern Western history and institutional reform. American missionary William Alexander Parsons Martin translated Elements of International Law, China's first Western legal work bringing concepts of international law and sovereign equality to China. These translations provided key blueprints for Yan Fu's translation of Evolution and Ethics and Liang Xichao's introduction of Western learning, becoming vital resources for late Qing ideological enlightenment. Missionary-founded modern newspapers, including Wanguogongbao, Review of the Times, and Shenbao, introduced Western journalism for the first time, spreading modern science, current affairs, and democratic thought, becoming ideological platforms for reformists and revolutionaries. Wanguogongbao serialized Timothy Richard's new policies, proposing concrete reform proposals and profoundly influencing Kang Yue and Liang Qichao's reform ideology. Xiao Gongquan commented in A History of Chinese Political Thought, Protestant missionaries' translation and new activities opened China's public opinion space, letting modern Western ideas break through traditional literati circles and reach broader social groups, laying the foundation for ideological liberation in modern China. 第二章，西方经济文明的跃迁与中国的制度回应。第二章，西方经济文明的飞跃与中国的制度应对。The outbreak of the Izhou-Arjiu Great Depression completely punctured the classical liberal myth of automatic market clearing and laissez-faire omnipotence. The economic crisis, starting on Wall Street, spread globally and transmitted to China through the silver standard, triggering nationwide deflation, rural bankruptcy, and the decline of national industry. Fairbank described the scene in the United States and China. The Great Depression crushed China's fragile rural economy. Grain prices plummeted, farmers lost their livelihoods, and millions fled into bankruptcy. Urban national industries collapsed due to shrinking overseas markets and rising raw material costs. UNEMPLOYMENT soared, social conflicts intensified, and the Nanjing government's modernization efforts struggled. In 1934, to address its domestic crisis, the United States enacted the Silver Purchase Act, stabilizing its monetary system by buying silver at high prices. This policy directly caused a global silver price surge. As one of the few countries still on the silver standard, China saw massive silver outflow 250 million taels in 1934 alone, sharply reducing domestic money supply, worsening deflation, triggering bank runs, and pushing the national economy to the brink of collapse. Against this background, the Nanjing national government was forced to launch the Izhou Sanwu Fabi currency reform, a critical turning point in China's modern monetary system. The core of the Fabi reform included abolishing the silver standard, issuing a unified legal tender, Fabi, with exclusive issuance rights held by the Central Bank, Bank of China, and Bank of Communications, banning silver circulation, nationalizing all silver as reserve for Fabi issuance, pegging Fabi to the British pound, E-Fabi equals E-shilling 25 pence, later establishing a fixed exchange rate with the US dollar, E-Fabi equals 0.2975 USD, and implementing a managed floating exchange rate system. 吴敬琏在中国经济改革进程中给出了客观评价：1935年的法币改革是一次被动应对冲击的转型。中国现代货币体系的真正起点 In the short term, it successfully halted silver outflow and deflation, stabilized financial markets, and created conditions for national industrial recovery. 更重要的是，它结束了自清末以来的货币混乱，建立了统一的国家货币体系，并为抗日战争期间的财政动员奠定了基础。However, the reform had obvious flaws. Highly centralized currency issuance lacked effective checks and balances, planting seeds for the nationalist government's later overissuance of currency and hyperinflation. Keynesianism, born from the Great Depression, marked a critical turning point in Western economic thought, its core meaning long misread, even dismissed as the theoretical foundation of planned economy. In truth, in the general theory of employment, interest and money Izhou Sanlu, Keynes clearly argued that economic crises were not original sins of the free market itself, but natural flaws of insufficient effective demand, exacerbated by rigid gold standards, inappropriate fiscal austerity, and government laissez-faire. He opposed two extremes: criticizing classical liberal dogma of government inaction, complete market laissez-faire, arguing markets could not automatically achieve full employment and required state intervention to meet insufficient effective demand, and firmly rejecting full planned economy, emphasizing the market remained the core of resource allocation, with state intervention limited to counter-cyclical fiscal and monetary policies, not direct control of production materials or economic operations. Keynes's authoritative biographer Robert Skidelsky clarified in John Maynard Keynes, Fighting for Freedom. Keynes was a defender of free market order, not a proponent of planned economy. His core proposal was to repair market flaws through limited state intervention, letting markets function better, not replace them. Attributing extreme interventionism or planned economy to Keynes is a double misreading of his thought. In implementing controlled economy, the nationalist government superficially borrowed Keynesian state intervention, but essentially leaned toward German and Soviet state monopoly models. The Nanjing national government controlled national strategic materials, minerals, energy, through the National Resources Commission, regulated industrial production and market circulation via the National Economic Council, and nationalized core sectors finance, transportation, communications. This model diverged sharply from Keynes' limited intervention. Qinghui pointed out in The Logic of the Market and the Boundaries of the State. The nationalist government's controlled economy served wartime centralization and national defense needs. IT's core was strengthening total state control over the economy, not repairing market flaws. This model lacked both Keynesian theoretical core and effective institutional constraints, eventually leading to inefficiency, rampant corruption, and a key cause of the nationalist government's economic collapse. The Soviet-style full-planned economy represented the ultimate form of Western rational constructivism. Its core claim was that a small elite could rationally design and fully plan socio-economic operation, rejecting spontaneous market order, native tradition, and individual freedom. This model achieved certain industrialization successes in the 1920s and 1930s, attracting many later developing countries including China, becoming a key reference for the later Nanjing national government and subsequent Chinese economic systems. In The Fatal Conceit and the Road to Serfdom, Hayek systematically criticized planned economy. He argued that human reason is limited, unable to exhaust all complex laws of socio-economic operation, let alone design a perfect economic system. Market order evolved spontaneously from long-term individual practice, containing dispersed knowledge and practical wisdom beyond artificial design. Rejecting spontaneous market order and implementing full planned economy inevitably leads to power concentration, loss of individual freedom, and eventually the road to serfdom. Hayek's critique precisely struck the core flaws of planned economy, providing vital ideological resources for later reflections on planned economy practice. Soviet planned economy's influence on China began in the Nanjing national government era. In the 1930s, the government sent large numbers of officials and scholars to the Soviet Union to study its planned economy and industrialization models. The National Resources Commission's industrial development plans, CLEARLY, borrowed the Soviet approach of prioritizing heavy industry and concentrating national strength on major tasks. During the War of Resistance, the government further strengthened total economic control, integrating economic operation into the wartime system through state monopoly purchasing and exclusive sales, highly similar to the Soviet wartime economic model. 秦桧评论：苏联计划经济自然与中国传统中央集权国家体制相契合，双方都强调 total state control over society and the economy, pursuing short-term industrialization achievements. The dual superposition of foreign totalitarianism and native autocracy became a key path of China's economic modernization, while planting institutional hidden dangers of inefficiency and lack of vitality.